subscribers. Conscientious, thoughtful, diligent, hard-working, careful, objector, one who objects, a dissenter, a protester, a dissident. Status, rank, position, standing, category, condition, military, armed forces. What does it mean to have a conscience? Scruples, morals, ethics, sense of right and wrong, to struggle with difficult thoughts and actions. What do you believe? How important is human life? Why is it wrong to kill? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder? Or is it okay to kill if you are ordered to do so? What basic rules do you live by? Truth, fairness, honesty, respecting others? Who decides what is right and wrong? Should people always follow their conscience? Is the military always right? Can the military be wrong? And what about our commander-in-chief? Can our commander-in-chief be wrong? What teachings of others do you follow? Do you follow the teachings of the scriptures, Jesus, the Golden Rule, Gandhi, Thoreau, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King Jr., Society of Friends, Quakers, Jehovah's Witnesses, free thought, secular humanism? What does it mean to have a conscience and to object? A conscientious objector is a term used in the military, and it's a legal definition that was finally given its status in the Department of Defense in 1962 as an official term. And you are watching a program called Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley, and this program is sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. And we're going to discuss today the meaning of being a conscientious objector. And no better person to have in the studio with us than Lance Corporal Norman, USMC. Thank you, Lance, for being here.
Thanks, Ken, for having me.
It's a pleasure. You are in the military right now.
Correct.
And you are a Marine.
Yes.
Semper Fi. Hoo-ha.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. And tell me about enlisting, because you weren't always a conscientious objector. You're applying for Conscientious Objector Status. You're in the process of that.
Correct. When I was in high school, had recruiters come in and they'd, recruit, and I said, well, it's something that I want to do. My father was a Marine back in the Vietnam era. I was raised with that respect for the military, and I felt like I had a debt to pay to my nation because of all the liberties and all the many pleasures that we have in this country that so many people take for granted. But I knew that I owed my country, my nation for that, so I figured, well, what better way to pay back that debt than to join the military service and to try to defend that freedom, to try to defend those privileges that we take so lightly sometimes.
So you were in high school and a military recruiter came to the school and
Correct.
gave you a presentation.
Correct.
And you didn't opt out of that presentation. You went there voluntarily.
Correct.
No, you weren't forced to go there
Right.
either, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how long after you received this presentation did you enlist?
I enlisted about a month before I graduated high school. I didn't actually leave for boot camp till about 9 days after my graduation.
Boot camp is Parris Island.
Correct.
All the Marines go to Parris Island.
Most of them.
Most go to Parris
on this
Island.
side of the Mississippi. Yeah.
How was that? Was that a big party?
It was a party in a manner of speaking. It was basic training, of course, Marine Corps. It was very, very tough, very hard, very rigorous, but you learn discipline from it, and I did learn many good principles from that of diligence, of discipline. So, you know, I took from that what good I could.
So, and then you graduate boot camp and then go on to additional training?
Yes, sir. After graduating boot camp, they give you about 10 days leave in between to go back home and just have a little bit of rest time. And then we left for the particular group I was in, left for Marine combat training, and that was about 2 weeks. And then afterwards went to our military specialty school. And I was in school about 3-4 months, learning to be a amphibious assault vehicle crewman, and graduated from that, and then reported to my unit.
And then after you finish your training, and now you're a full-fledged Marine.
Correct.
And you are shipped to Iraq.
Correct. I was in my unit for roughly about a year or so, and we got the order that we had about 10 days preparation time in between, and we were going to deploy for Iraq, yes.
What part of Iraq were you in?
Oh, goodness, we were...
A lot of different areas?
We were in Kuwait for the staging, and then, of course, we went up through El Satra, Nasiriyah, Baghdad, Saddam City.
And how was that? Can you set the stage a little bit about, because most people have not been to Iraq, and certainly most people have not seen the fighting that is in Iraq. Talk about it from the senses: sight, hear, sound, stench, smells.
Well, the first thing you notice even in Kuwait is as soon as that plane door opens, the country stinks. The air just smells like 2 weeks old garbage. I mean, it just really is a raunchy smell over there. Why, I don't know, but even in Kuwait it was that way. In Iraq, during the war, the smell of death smells like death. I mean, there's no comparison to it. You can take all of the most horrible, gut-wrenching smells that you've ever smelt in your life and never even have a glimpse into what that smell is.
No inkling about what it is.
Correct.
I mean, we've smelled rotten meat in the refrigerator, but this is far worse from that.
Very.
I would imagine. I've not been to Iraq and not seen or smelled or heard what you have experienced. You were in combat.
Correct.
You shot. What kind of weaponry did you carry?
We had M16 A2 service rifles, and the vehicle I was on had a 50 cal machine gun and 40 grenade launcher.
And you were in combat?
Correct.
You were shot at and you fired?
Correct.
And you were ordered to do so?
That's the general purpose of war.
The war, kill and break things,
right,
essentially,
absolutely.
And to secure areas, and I would imagine. What kind of vehicle did you travel Iraq in?
For the most part, it was a AAV. It's a amphibious assault vehicle.
In the desert?
In the desert.
You had an amphibious vehicle in the desert?
Correct.
At what point would you use it in water?
We used it for crossing the Tigris and Euphrates River, and that was about it for water.
Talk about your equipment. Were you well equipped? Did you wear a vest?
Yeah, we were very well equipped. They equipped us very well as far as tactical vests, weaponry, things like that.
Kevlar?
So, Kevlar.
And the food, MREs?
You make the best of them what you can, you know.
Yeah, and what about the water? I would imagine that's a difficult aspect of being there. Where did you get your water to drink?
We got the water from different, well, later on during the occupation they flew in bottles of water, but during the war itself they would get the water from the rivers that had...
the Tigris, the Euphrates?
Right, different... Correct.
You'd be pumping drinking water. How would you clean that? Would you ozonate it? Alzone tablets?
I think that they put
50-50 chlorine.
Right. They put a lot of chlorine tablets and things like that in it, and of course, you know, we all got sick from it.
Sick meaning dysentery?
Correct,
And
correct.
what else?
Cholera, dysentery.
Cholera?
Yeah.
Everybody got sick?
Pretty much everybody.
Wow.
Yep.
But you also recovered, or did you stay sick while you were there?
We all stayed sick while we were there, pretty much. It wasn't until, gosh, we got back to California that we actually started to get to feeling better.
What happened? You enlisted and you were gung-ho, a Marine.
Right.
You don't get more gung-ho. Sorry, Navy and Army, I don't know. But Marines are the most gung-ho of the armed forces that I know. What happened that you changed your mind and decided to seek conscientious objector status? And first, what defined that? What are the criteria to become a conscientious objector?
The basic criteria is, one, to oppose war in all forms. Secondly, that those beliefs must be based upon a religious belief or value system, or an ethical belief or value system.
It need not be religious.
Correct.
And what else? It must be sincerely held.
Right, absolutely. It must be sincerely held. You can't just say, hey, you know, I'm conscientious.
Yeah, you know that I'm a conscientious.
Right. Exactly.
Somehow it has to be sincerely held.
Absolutely.
And I imagine that's difficult to ascertain if you're one trying to review the sincerity of Lance Corporal Norman.
Right.
But let's get back to that after we find out what happened that caused you to change your mind.
Basically, when I was there in Iraq, of course, a lot of killing going on. You see innocent people get killed. You see the Iraqi fighters being killed. You see your own people being killed. And in the midst of all that killing, you start to wonder, what for? What's the reasoning behind all this? So I carried those questions with me during the war. And as I came back home, I'm like, you know, I was just so uneasy. I felt at a miss. I didn't feel that peace. I didn't feel peace in my heart, like I'd actually gone and helped people or done something that was right. We all know when we do something right and wrong, we get that good or bad feeling in our hearts, you know. And there was a mist of fog right there. And so I said, well, I know if I have to get these questions answered and rest my conscience, that I got to research these questions, you know, is war right, is what we did right, you know, so on and so forth. The list goes on. And as I started to read the works of Einstein and Thomas Paine and Aristotle, I came to realize that war is wrong.
Einstein? What did Einstein say about this?
What didn't he say about it, right?
What sticks out in your mind?
What really sticks out in my mind is, you know, of course, I wondered, well, what's right, what's wrong with war? Can it be avoided? Can it be? And Einstein said, the pioneers of a warless world is a generation, or the youth, that refuses military service.
A warless world is the youth who refuse military service.
Correct.
Such as a conscientious objector.
Correct.
What would it look like if everybody refused military service?
Peace. Peace.
And when I say everybody, I have to include both sides of all of the wars.
Right. Yeah, I mean peace, because you say, well, I hear the argument so many times, well, if you don't go and fight, you know, we're just going to be invaded. Well, it's like you say, you include everybody. If everyone had that thought, peace, there's no other outcome that could come from it.
We spend a lot of time at war.
Right.
Do you think that vision is a doable vision?
Absolutely not, because war not only hurts those that are involved in the conflict itself, it affects not only those people but the families at home. It affects the world economy. You know, the billions that are spent on war, bombs, and to rebuild these countries that we completely annihilate could be spent towards health care for the elderly, could be spent towards food for the hungry. I volunteer sometimes at a church in town that takes in the homeless on Saturdays. And when I was there, I was speaking with the coordinator of it all, and they were making up some to-go plates. And I said, well, are you making this for the homeless to take with them? He's like, no. We got some people right around the corner, some elderly, that don't have any food. They eat dog and cat food because between an electric bill, between their medications, it's what they can afford to eat. And they are too shamed and too embarrassed that, they won't say anything to you about it. You don't know. But when you're there, you see their cabinets empty, all you see is dog or cat food. And
yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break,
Sure.
Lance, and when we come back, we're going to pick up our discussion regarding what it means to be a conscientious objector. And this was a term started when we had a draft. We no longer have a draft, and so anyone who wants to seek conscientious objector status is already in the military. What does the military have? What provisions do they have? And how do they ascertain the sincerity of an individual who seeks conscientious objector status? My name is Ken Hurley. You're watching a program called Civil Discourse. We'll be right back.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
In these turbulent times, let us not erode the liberties our country was built on.
Let it shine.
Larry Parker, National Honor Society student. Patricia Stevenson, stockbroker. Hector DeSario, systems analyst. Driving while black or brown isn't a crime. If it's happened to you, call us at 1-877-6-PROFILE and arrest the racism.
Welcome back to Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley, and we're discussing conscientious objector status in the military with Lance Corporal Norman. Lance Corporal Norman, but your first name is also Lance. Lance Corporal is a military rank?
Correct.
So you're actually Lance Corporal Lance Norman.
Norman, yep.
Lance Corporal Lance Norman. Stormin' Norman.
That's it.
All right. Well, Lance, one of the things I want you to spend time discussing is what changed your mind. You're in Iraq. You spent a lot of time there. You were shot at. Didn't like it.
Oh, no one one likes it, at least I hope not.
But you enlisted, in theory, knowing what you were getting into, supposedly. Maybe that's not true. Maybe you didn't know what you were getting into. Did they at any point misrepresent what they were offering, the military recruitment officers?
As far as the benefits, no, there was no misrepresentation. They did their job well in a professional manner.
Good.
As far as the aspects of you're being trained to kill another human being, as far as you may very well go to war and be ordered to do these things.
That wasn't a surprise to you. You knew that going in, right?
You know it, but you don't understand it.
Do you think that people have a sense that, well, it will never really happen to me?
People have a sense of, oh, well, it will never happen to me.
I mean, being in the combat,
Right.
being in the firefight, being in the battle.
But no one really understands what it is to take another human life or see death on such a massive scale.
One of the things we don't do very well is report the deaths, the total casualties. We report the American deaths, we don't report the Iraqi deaths, and we don't want to report, for the most part, any of the casualties. The people
Right.
are coming back without legs and arms and the psychological trauma that people come back with. But what changed your mind? Did you wake up one day and say, I'm now a conscientious objector?
Right. No, it's totally not something you just wake up one day and say, hey, you know what, I'm a conscientious objector and I oppose war in all forms. It's
and
a
I'm
process.
sincere.
Right, exactly. And it's a process, just like any other type of education is. Your beliefs, whether you believe war or don't believe war, is based on education, and education is a process of time that takes years, months, days, it depends on the individual. But it was a process for me as I came back and having had that wartime experience and reading the works of Einstein and Thomas Paine and other philosophers. And for me, it was a process of, okay, well, you know, I have these questions. Is war right? Is war wrong? Okay. I read these things. War is wrong. It's not right in the overall aspect of things. And what do I do about it now? So then you come to that crossroads to where, okay, well, I can either say absolutely nothing and sin against my own conscience and go and fight in a war, that I completely do not agree with in any form, or I can say, you know what, I don't agree with this, this is wrong, and stand up for what I believe and face whatever consequences may come. So, you know, people are just come to that crossroads.
So it was a process. You didn't
Absolutely.
just wake up and you were thinking about it, you were reading about it, you were in a situation that you found untenable. Do you regret your service?
I regret what we have done. I don't regret becoming a Marine, because I didn't learn discipline from it. But what I regret is that I did not understand before what I would be ordered to do. I guess, you know, it's sad, but you never know till you're there. And then once you're there, you have a decision to make.
And that decision is?
To become a conscientious objector, opposing all these wars in all forms.
So you made that, so it was a process. Have you ever been called a coward, a traitor?
Sure. You know, people will call you a coward, or, you know, no one's called me a traitor to my face, but, you know, I'll be talking to friends and, yeah, you know, so-and-so was saying, you know, I think he's a traitor, and so on like that. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because at the end of the day, I know who I am, I know what I believe, and, you know, whatever consequences may come, in the eternal perspective of things, will be but a short period of time.
What about defending our country? Are you prepared, or could you be prepared to take up arms and use force? Is all force bad?
All force is not bad. See, that's a great misconception that people have about conscientious objectors. As far as using force, all right, police force. Well, okay, someone's coming at you with a knife. Yes, in very rare circumstances, force is required. But what people don't understand is that the force used in war doesn't, we say it's to bring an offender to justice by some wrong that's been committed internationally. All right, well, this person that you're fighting, they may be an upstanding, wonderful person. They may be a very religious person. They may be a very good person. But because of the military service, what other choice do you have?
So you make a distinction between any war, all wars, and that kind of force versus the force that we might see in the community at large.
Absolutely.
There's clearly a distinction there.
There's such a mass use of indiscriminate force.
In the military.
Exactly. That's what war truly is a mass use of indiscriminate force. Okay.
Well, has your life changed as a result of your decision, or your process, your evolution, your internal maturity? I don't know how to describe it, but has your life changed in what you do and where you go and who you associate with? Do you have new friends, new social circles?
Absolutely. During having all these questions and searching out these different things that trouble my heart, I got in contact with Wage Peace, different other peace groups.
Wage Peace is an organization in town, and in other towns too, that promotes peace.
Correct.
It's a nonprofit organization in town. They've been on this program, as a matter of fact.
Have they
Wage
really?
Peace.
Wow.
Yes, right. Instead of waging war, wage peace.
It makes sense. And they're a fantastic group, a fantastic support base.
Why is peace so difficult from your perspective?
Because it goes against natural human tendencies. The natural human tendencies, the nature of man is greedy, is prideful, is covetous. But peace takes more than that. You have to become better. You actually have to work for something. And I think that's why peace is so hard, because it requires something. It's just like a marriage, you know. In a marriage, you got to love that person, and when those hard times come, you either give up or you just love them more.
Well, why do they say then we go to war to defend democracy? Do we go to war to install democracy in Iraq? We're going to war because they hate our freedom. Is there any conflict in that statement? They hate our freedom. We know that our President Bush has said that often.
Right.
For the reason, one of the reasons we're in Iraq. They hate our freedom. And don't you remember 9/11? I get that all the time.
Right.
Of course we remember 9/11. It was a horrible, tragic, atrocious event that happened. What does Iraq have to do with it?
Iraq has absolutely nothing to do with it, in my personal perspective. As far as terrorists or the Iraqi people or whomever the country deems to be their enemies as hating our freedom, that's that's a contradiction within itself, because if Iraqis hated our freedom so much, then why do some of them support the new Iraqi constitution? Yes, are some good things happening in Iraq as far as their constitution? Sure, you know, some good things have happened, but you got to look years ahead in the future. They may be in a civil war for another 10 years. We don't know.
Well, lots of things. We don't know
Right.
the future, no matter
Exactly.
what happens. We don't understand the future of Iraq, nor do we we don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now.
Exactly.
You know, 5 months from now,
you know,
5 years from now, Iraq or otherwise.
Right.
And that's one of the things about the country. But, well, you know, the ACLU has been involved in some of these conscientious objector statuses, and during the 60s, before the military actually had it in their military code, there were all sorts of legal precedent that were set. Gillette versus the United States versus Seeger, Welsh versus the United States, and then one of the most famous ones, Clay versus the United States. Of course, Clay was Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, and that was settled in 1971 at the United States Supreme Court, and it reaffirmed all the previous decisions that said you must object on the basis of religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. Your objection must be to war in any form, and you must be sincere.
Absolutely.
And in the process of applying, has your sincerity been challenged?
Sure. That's really the basis of it, is, are you sincere about what you're saying? And daily life, your everyday life, has to say sincere, sincere, sincere. And you know, as I've been involved with Wage Peace and in the different peace marches and peace rallies that we've had, and then I'm going through a nursing assistant school and trying to heal people and help people. You know, that.
Have you considered taking a transfer to a non-combatant role? I mean, you know, instead of what do you seek now? Do you seek the discharge?
Correct. I seek discharge, and there is a non-combative role that you can be put in. And the reason being I'm seeking the discharge is because they've said to me, well, you know, what if we put you in a non-combative role, we don't issue you a weapon, and we go over to Iraq? Well, in theory, that sounds great, but in all reality, in all practicalness, and any Marine will tell you, every Marine is a rifleman.
Right. We have about 30 seconds.
Sure.
There's a GI hotline that people might be interested in knowing. Have you called this GI hotline? It's 1-800-394-9544. 1-800-394-9544. If you're at all interested in getting your rights from the GI perspective, they're there to help you. Now, we've only got a few seconds left. How do you sum this up?
Give peace a chance. Realize, I would say to the viewers, please realize that this is not a matter of being a coward, a matter of being a traitor. Peace is patriotic. I love my country. I joined to serve my country. And in being a conscientious objector, I and others are still serving our country because we believe we are doing
How do we support
right.
the troops?
Support the troops. Send them your letters. Give them your love. Send them packages. But just because you don't support the war does not mean that you don't support troops. I am a troop.
Thank you, Lance. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
You've been
you, Ken.
watching a program called Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley. This program is sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union. It's been wonderful. You've been
Thanks,
a pleasure
Ken.
being here.
I appreciate it.
Good luck
Thank
to you.
you.
And if we can help, let us know.
Absolutely.
All right. See you next time. We want to hear from you. Send us an email. Share your views and opinions. If you're interested in appearing on the program, let us know. Friend or foe, we want you on the show. You may contact the ACLU in the following ways. Our telephone number is 904-396-5242. Our post office box is 5331 Jacksonville, Florida 32247, and our email address is aclujax@yahoo.com. My name is Ken Hurley. Thank you for participating in Civil Discourse.